G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here. I think we have first dog on the moon.
Hello, Patriots. Tonight on Four Corners, we take an in-depth look into the lives of two of Australia's most senior union organisers. We've been given unprecedented access to their lives behind the scenes, allowed to film in their home for the last 6 months. We're crossing now live to the home of Darren and Craig. Both were senior members of the WTF number 2 branch, one of the most powerful unions in the land, until questions were asked about some excessive spending, including overseas trips, dinners in fancy restaurants, and the purchase of a 500-hectare alpaca ranch in Vaucluse. Darren, Craig, thanks for talking to us. You're welcome. We'd do anything for Kerry O'Brien. Oh, sorry about this. Hello? Oh, hello, Mum. Oh, hang on a minute. I just got to turn the recorder on. It's in the other room. So you're always recording all of your conversations? Oh, well, of course we do. You just never know when you might need to replay something highly incriminating on national television. I told her I'd call her back. Okay, so in 2012, you were both expelled from the WTF, and while we can't speak about the ongoing court cases, we can say there are a number of questions, including suggestion you might have been embezzling funds. Oh, well, yes, we heard about that, and we were bumstruck. Don't you mean dumbstruck? Ah, well, it's true I didn't understand everything they were talking about, but we were shocked when they gave us the arse. We didn't embezzle anything. Well, I mean, we borrowed a few things. Well, quite a lot of things now that you mention it, but we didn't think they'd missed them. Well, I actually have a partial list here. The union says it's still missing a gold-plated faffing wand, a Louis Vuitton alpaca sexing kit, and a pair of opal-encrusted grape scissors. Oh, we don't even like grapes. No, we mainly use them for getting prickles off the alpacas. Anyway, we just did it to prove the union wasn't looking after its funds properly. It was sort of a community service. It was an experiment to reveal that the WTF were not doing due diligence with the money it received from its members. We're going to give everything back except the gold bassoon. I mean, why would a union even need a bassoon? Oh, yes, I remember when we made them buy it. They asked that same question. It's a very nice bassoon. Go on, play it, Darren. Oh, all right, hang on. It's Ravel's Bolero. He's very good, isn't he? Yes, he is. Anyway, we're going to give everything back. Even that marble table that was damaged but not broken. We taped it back together. And the spa filled with humpback whale milk? Oh, no, that wasn't for us. One of the alpacas suffers from terrible eczema. Gordon, yes, Gordon. Gordon finds the milk very soothing on his haunches. It's not easy milking a whale, I can tell you. And the money spent on the overseas holidays? Well, we were going to pay that back, but the airline took it. When you paid for the holiday? Yes. Well, so what do you say to the members of your former union? I mean, those workers, many of whom are on basic wages, toiling away, trying to make their way, sometimes even struggling to pay union fees and expecting you to represent their interests. And you use those funds to bathe your alpacas in whale milk. Oh, well, not all of them. That would be excessive. It's just Gordon. The others have to bathe in Dom Perignon the same as us. No special treatment around here. Thanks for listening, Patriots. This has been First Dog on the Moon's Guide to Modern Living, brought to you by the First Dog on the Moon Institute.
Oh, what a finish. That's it.
Well, what a bland week that was. What a terribly bland week that was. Yeah, apparently Queen Elizabeth II is considering abdication because Will would look so good as King William, and Kate would look so great as Queen Kate. And Malcolm Turnbull, apparently, according to a mate of mine in Western Australia, how you going, VB Ed? This is your shout out. Mate of mine in Western Australia who actually likes the Liberal Party, and he admits to voting for them because he's a bean counter by trade, and bean counters and the Liberal Party go well together. But he tells me that Malcolm Turnbull, as one of his first acts to differentiate himself from Tony of the Abbott variety, has reversed the Abbotonian policy of Australia nominating a bunyip aristocracy of knights and dames every year on Invasion Day. Apparently, there will only ever be a pair of knights, or was it 2 pairs? Yeah, 2 pairs of knights and 2 pairs of dames created by Tony Abbott. But Malcolm Turnbull, in his enthusiasm to not annoy the right wing of the Liberal Party, hasn't made a big song and dance about it. And the media, the gentlemen of the press, as they used to call it back in days of yore, the gentlemen of the press and the gentlewomen of the press, they haven't made anything newsworthy of the fact that we don't have Abbotonian knights and dames anymore. It's really weird. It's like everybody's trying to give Malcolm Turnbull as much leeway as they can for him to gently lead the Looney Tunes end of the Liberal Party away from their silliest aspects, but they don't want the right wing of the Liberal Party to notice that they're being led. So anytime Malcolm changes anything, it gets hidden, and they make a big song and dance about how he's sticking to Abbott's policies. I think the biggest news that clicked onto my radar during the week, I mean, apart from the biggest storm in the history of recorded storms, which built itself up and got poised to hammer Mexico and then apparently evaporated just as it crossed the coast, went from a category 5 to a category 2 or something in hours. The biggest thing apart from that was the Israeli Prime Minister, the one who really, really, really hates terrorists because, terrorism is just totally undemocratic, which is how come in 1947 the English locked Benjamin Netanyahu and Yitzak Rabin, locked them up because they'd been wearing dresses while throwing hand grenades at coffee shops and pulling out submachine guns and shooting holes in all the people who had survived the hand grenade blast. So that Benjamin Netanyahu, who's such a great democratic leader and bastion of the Western industrial interests in the Middle East, he announced that it's not Hitler's fault that the Holocaust happened. Hitler didn't want to burn the Jews until 1941, when the Supreme Grand Mufti of Jerusalem went to Berlin and had a word in Hitler's ear. So according to the Prime Minister of Israel, the Holocaust didn't start till 1941, and it was all a Palestinian idea. Well, I've bloody heard everything now. I mean, for a long time, I've been getting increasingly unwilling to agree to the theory that because a man called Adolf Hitler was a horrible, nasty bastard to people called Jews in a place called Europe, and he was a horrible, nasty bastard to them for 12 years, and he stopped being a horrible, nasty bastard to them 75 years ago, that therefore, thus, and because Israel deserves to keep all of Palestine under Israeli control and to fence in the Palestinians and make them live in a concentration camp. I just do not accept that premise. And now the Prime Minister of Israel says that it wasn't even Hitler. Hitler didn't do it. It was the Palestinians who made him do it. I heard a radio documentary with a sociologist or a historian or anthropologist or somebody who was commenting on how in Gaza the Palestinian youth have absolutely zero fear of death, and they have absolutely zero expectations of any future for themselves because they're the second or third or fourth generation that have grown up in refugee camps and detention centres and concentration camps and walled off, fenced off areas. And they're at the point where the Gestalt consciousness is such that 15-year-old schoolgirls are pulling out knives and attacking Israeli soldiers at checkpoints because they've been walking past that checkpoint for 12 or 13 years, since they were able to walk to school, and they're bloody sick of it. And the Israelis are discovering that the theory that if you've got superior firepower, then you can force your will on an entire people might work for a couple of decades, but eventually your grandkids cannot keep their grandkids under control in the box, behind the bars and the razor wire, and can't keep them still at gunpoint. Cooperation instead of competition is the answer, but the Israelis don't want to cooperate, and they have bred a really, really, really intransigent, recalcitrant bunch of Palestinians who just hate anything Jewish. They've expanded it to that. They hate Jews. And the Jews, of course, well, Jews encompass a lot of people. There are Russian Jews and there are German Jews and Polish Jews and English Jews, Irish Jews, American Jews, South American Jews. There are Ethiopian Jews. And last week, somebody who decided that they were sick of living in an armed Israeli camp, they were probably a Palestinian, grabbed a hold of a firearm, I think it was a rifle, took the rifle away from a soldier who was guarding the nature of reality standing there at the bus stop or the railway station. And the person with the stolen weapon started shooting into the crowd. And then somebody shot the person who was shooting into the crowd. And then the crowd of white Israeli Jews spontaneously leapt upon an Ethiopian Israeli Jew and beat him to the point where he later died the same day in hospital. Because they heard gunfire, they turned around, they saw a brown man. And Israel, which denies the idea that it is an apartheid state, even though it keeps the Palestinians in a fucking concentration camp, the white Israeli Jews beat the brown Israeli Ethiopian descended Jew to death because he was brown and somebody had just shot at the white fellas. Therefore, it must have been the brown man. Sort of a bit like when the English Special Forces police jumped on a train and shot an electrician to death because he was South American. He was brown and he had a few wires sticking out of the coat of his pocket. He was an electrician going to work. So that's the state of the world. It's all pretty sad. It's all pretty sad. The forced migrations are going on. There are people still trying to get out of Syria. I think somebody said that Syria's population is no longer 20 million because 11 million of them are dead, displaced, or refugees who've run away. I wonder just how bad this El Nino is going to be, the one that we've constructed for ourselves by warming up the ocean. We've achieved 1 degree global warming already. Doesn't sound much until you consider that it's 1 degree against a global average of 15. So we've cranked the thermostat up by, 5 or 7% already. Scary, scary stuff. The storms will get worse. We're on track for between 5 and 7 metres of sea level rise by the end of this century. West Antarctica is ready to start shedding ice sheets. Like I said, the forced migrations are underway. The biosphere is disassembling our economies. And Benjamin Netanyahu says Hitler didn't kill the Jews. Warble's on a lot to YouTube. He says it was the Palestinians who made him do it. Ciao.